Hey everyone, and welcome back to Zero Podcast. Today we're talking to Shaun Biggs. He's the UK ambassador for Waves platform. Hope you enjoy this one. Okay, Shaun, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. You're going to be telling us about the Waves platform today. But before we
Yeah,
get into
thanks.
that,
Thanks for having me.
no problem. Before we get into Waves, what's your own backstory? How did you get into cryptocurrency?
Right, so I started off, my background's in business and IT. I actually worked as a business analyst for the University of Hertfordshire, also a number of charities, the YMCA, and my main role was very diverse. It was mainly around looking at the ways they currently use IT and technology and looking at their current business processes and looking at ways they could better use technology. So developing new processes, new platforms for them to use to make their business objectives more efficient. So my background's very much across many areas of IT and technology. So when I kind of heard about Bitcoin back in 2009, it's the first time I heard about it. It was one of those typical situations where you hear about it and then you forget about it again. I was at university at the time and I heard about this thing called Bitcoin. It was very cheap at the time, less than a penny. And I thought, oh, this sounds amazing. I'll buy some. But as you do when you're at university, other priorities take over. And we ended up down the pub. And that kind of got forgotten about until I heard about Bitcoin again in 2013 when it really first hit the media and went mainstream. And I remember seeing it on the news and thinking, wow, I remember reading about that a few years back. And by that time, obviously, the price had really started to pick up and ramp up. But I could really see the benefits of it. Obviously, having my background in business and IT, I could see how this new technology, Bitcoin, blockchain, could really impact business processes. So that's what really piqued my interest then. And I started to learn about mining. So I started learning about mining in 2013 when there was the big kind of first Bitcoin boom. And that's what really got me interested in it. I bought the very first ASICs, the old Bitmain
Really?
S1.
Okay.
Bought a couple of them, a Terraminer. But this was back when Bitmain had very first started up. They were a new startup company. Nobody had heard of them. They were promising to deliver these new mining machines, but you had to pay loads of money up front and didn't know if they were ever going to deliver them. They never had a delivery date. They just said sometime in the future you will get them. So it's kind of a really scary time to start putting money into this.
Yeah, sketchy time, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really interesting learning curve. We learned a lot of lessons the hard way. Things like keeping mining machines cool is a very difficult task, especially over the summer months. Things like security, keeping them safe because they're worth a lot of money. And we learned the hard way that it wasn't as easy as everyone first thought when setting up a mining setup, especially if you're doing it on quite a large scale. And me and my friend had quite a lot of mining machines running at the time. We actually even got raided by the police. Funny story. Because they thought we might have been growing drugs or something at the time, because obviously we were using a lot of electricity, generating a lot of heat.
The heat, yeah, of
Being
course,
a
yeah.
bit suspect around our security and things like that, putting up alarm systems and things like that, but keeping it very under wraps what it was we were doing at the time. So that was kind of my very first introduction to cryptocurrency.
That's intense. That's an intense introduction.
Yeah, it was. But obviously during the 2014 crash, we then realized that obviously when Bitcoin price comes down dramatically, especially if you live in a country like the UK, keeping mining machines running isn't very cost effective when you're losing money. And the Bitcoin
Right,
price
yeah.
came all the way down to about £300, I think, that year.
So
And
did you
it
have
was,
multiple rigs running at one time?
yeah, we had about three or four server cabinets full of
So how many machines do you think
Terraminers.
that was?
We had probably about 20 20 machines running. This is when they were the old one terahertz coin terra miners. Was the most they could do. They pumped out so much heat and was so noisy.
Yeah, we've come a long way
And we,
since then with the miners.
yeah, we kind of, a lot of the time, especially with this new technology, people are jumping in and finding out further down the line that there's a lot of issues with this new technology and things that you don't consider at first. You just see the dream and you see, oh, great, everybody's making money. And you jump in and, like we did, invest loads of money and realize that actually it's not quite as simple as
of course.
everyone makes it out to be.
And
So
how
that
much
was a real kind
how much Bitcoin
of, sorry.
daily do you think you were mining back then? If you were to guess.
Thinking back, I believe we were mining a few Bitcoin a month. I think during our peak we were probably doing about 3-4 Bitcoins and 3-4 Bitcoin a month.
And that was when it was what? How many dollars?
That's when it was just over £1,000, about just over £1,000, so about $1,500. I think it kind of peaked at around that time, and everybody was loving it. Everybody was doing well. We were making money, but yeah, then you learn the hard way that what goes up can always come down.
And with Bitcoin, it usually does come back down before it goes back up quite significantly.
Oh, exactly, massively. But it was a great time to kind of really start learning about it all, and it was just as really kind of mainstream was starting to pick up on what this Bitcoin thing was. Yeah, it was a really interesting time to get in, but we did learn a lot of lessons the hard way. And
it's the best way to learn, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hands-on. And we learned that obviously, yeah, you just need to be very mindful of this is new technology. It's new technology and it's still developing, and we're still very early in the space. Even now,
we are.
It's still early.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Waves, the Waves platform.
Brilliant.
And for someone who's never heard of the project, kind of give them a rundown on what it is and how it works.
Well, Waves has developed over the last few years. I mean, they first launched as a platform for easy token creating. So Waves realized that people wanted to create their own cryptocurrencies. You saw new ones popping up almost every day on Bitcoin Talk, people creating their own crypto tokens. And Waves wanted to make it easy for people to do that and accessible. So they first of all launched as a token creation platform and started work on their DEX. So you could really quickly and easily create your own token and trade it completely decentralized via their internal DEX, all built into the wallet. So that obviously led into the years of the ICOs that we saw in kind of 2016, 2017. And they realized this is a great platform for people to launch their ICOs. So they then kind of spearheaded that easy token creation, launch your ICO on our platform and be able to exchange it internally on the decentralized exchange, all built into the wallet. And they've just built on it from there. So now we're looking at they've developing all different aspects, all built into the one wallet. They want everything in there that a user might need a blockchain platform on a day-to-day basis. Things like creating your own tokens, exchanging tokens, storing your cryptocurrency, fiat gateways inbuilt, have everything at the click of a button inbuilt into the desktop app and the mobile app, and have it very uniformed across everything. So you don't need to have a Coinbase account to purchase crypto with your fiat, and then a Binance wallet to be able to exchange, and then have another app for doing this and another app for doing that. They want everything that you kind of want out of a blockchain platform built into a nice user interface where you can launch things with a click of a button without having to know how to code or launch smart contracts or anything like that. And it's
that's all happening on the back end.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff built into the Waves is happening in the back end, but they want to make it usable for the user from the front end. So you can create your own tokens, store your cryptocurrency, exchange, and everything in one nice, neat little wallet.
So how many assets does Waves have right now? How many cryptocurrencies?
So Waves
not including, including the custom made. Would you have a number?
Yeah, give me, actually, I did have that.
Because you have most of the main, you have the main.
So Waves obviously make it very easy for people to launch their their own tokens on Waves. So it costs one Wave, which at the moment is about $2. You buy one Wave, you go into the wallet, there's a little form you can fill in, give your token a name, a description, and hit create. And you can create as many of those tokens as you want. You can make them reissuable. So that means further down the line, you can create more of them. And at the current count, they have just under 24,000 different tokens, unique tokens on their platform.
On Waves, on the entire Waves platform.
On Waves, yeah. So they're completely different tokens. But what you'll find is a lot of those tokens have been created over time by people just for fun. They might be tokens just used between friends. But a lot of the tokens being created on Waves that a lot of people don't know about actually have really good use cases and are being developed. So beyond just having the tokens that are created on the Waves platform, because Waves is its own blockchain.
Yeah.
Waves have implemented a number of gateways which allow you to bring cryptocurrency or tokens that would normally live on a separate blockchain into your Waves wallet. So they work via currently gateways where, say, for example, I wanted to store Ethereum in my Waves wallet and use the Waves blockchain to trade and the Waves decentralized exchange. I can send my Ethereum to the gateway address, and then in my Waves wallet, I get a Waves equivalent token of the Ethereum. So if I send one Ethereum to my Waves gateway wallet address, within my Waves wallet, I will get one WETH, which is an equivalent of one Ethereum. And then if I ever want to send that again off of the Waves wallet to an Ethereum address, again, I just send it via the Waves wallet, via the gateway, and I send the equivalent amount of Ethereum to the Ethereum address that I want. So there's a little bit of a process with that, in that it does take a little bit longer sometimes with those transactions if you're sending them in and out of the gateways.
Yeah.
But the great thing about it is I can store, at the moment, supported on the Bitcoin, on the Waves wallet, I can store Bitcoin, I can store Ethereum, I can store Litecoin, I can store Zcash, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Dash, and Monero, all in my Waves wallet. Which is very handy because I can store my Ethereum then completely decentralized in a nice wallet.
Yeah,
great
I personally use the Waves mobile wallet to store some of my.
Yeah.
So, and I've used that app for a while.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the better apps I've ever used, to be honest. Mobile wallets, it's so clean. The UI is so clean.
Oh yeah,
it's not overcomplicated.
No, they've just gone through a big kind of UI overhaul on the mobile apps, and they're amazing. The mobile apps for Android and iOS.
It's one of my favorite wallets. Yeah, and you can exchange through the wallet as well.
Exactly.
So it's
the DEX built into the mobile wallet is just so handy.
So just to go back on the custom token creation, I could go on right now and create my own token, but just to go a little bit more in depth, so you can pick the supply, the maximum supply of the token. So what else can you do when you create the token? You can obviously name it.
So you give it a name. You give it a description. So you can have like a full description, so people, when they actually search for your token, can actually see a bit more information about it. You create you select the total amount and whether it's reissuable or not. As I mentioned before, if it's reissuable, you can create more further down the line. You can select how many decimals you want the token to be divisible by, with a maximum of 8 decimals, same as on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is divisible up to 8 decimals. And then you can actually select now in the new wallet whether you want to enable a script on a token. Waves have just launched what's called smart assets and smart accounts, which
that was really the community were really excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very clever way of implementing smart contracts, but in an efficient and secure way, where the scripts are associated with a particular account or with a particular token, which might mean there's certain criteria on whether you can trade a token or not, or certain criteria on whether an account can perform certain actions. So again, when you create your token, you can assign scripts to it, and it works very much similar to how Bitcoin scripting works, how the original kind of idea for smart contracts on the Bitcoin network was developed. And I think we'll kind of dive into that a bit more in depth as we talk a bit more. But yeah, so while you're creating the other token, you can actually assign a script straight to that token, which might mean the token's frozen for a certain amount of time, or any other kind of functionality that you would like to code in. And that's it. And you just click generate. And
it's meant to be simple. That's the whole point. It's meant to be quick, efficient, small fee, And
Yeah.
that's the whole point.
And as soon as you generated your token, it's instantly tradable as well.
Yeah, I
So you
love
then
that.
don't have
I love
to,
that.
oh,
Yeah.
I need to get my token listed on an exchange, which at the moment is just like the Wild West out there, trying to get
Yeah.
tokens listed on exchanges. People are blackmailing people. There's backhanders
Huge
left, right,
fees.
and
Yeah.
centre. Huge fees. And the exchanges are kind of just raking it in, really, and making the best of the situation.
But that'll
But
only
with
last for so long. Yeah.
Exactly. Once decentralized exchanges actually become more usable, we've seen a lot of decentralized exchanges come out over the last few years. In my opinion, the Waves wallet is the only
Yeah. So
decentralized exchange.
this is something I really wanted to speak about. So everybody seems to be all for decentralized exchanges or DEXs, but
Yeah.
I don't know many people that use them, and that's the truth, because centralized exchanges seem to be, better right now, better in the way, better user experience. The only DEX that's actually fully usable that I've tried anyway, definitely.
Yeah, because what you find is creating a DEX, a decentralized exchange, even though quite a few projects are doing it now, it is definitely not a straightforward, simple task. So what we found with
definitely not.
DEXs like iDEX, the functionality just doesn't work like you'd centralized exchange, like you expect from a centralized exchange, because it simply can't, because of the decentralized aspects. Now, Waves have worked tirelessly over the last almost 3 years now, since they kind of started work on their actual product, to create a DEX that functions just like a centralized exchange, and it does.
It does.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
that's the point I'm trying to make. It's the only DEX I've ever used that I didn't realize it was a DEX until after I had used it, because I used the Waves wallet before I had researched Waves, and I thought it was a centralized exchange. Until obviously I read afterwards.
Yeah, so, exactly. You get that exact same kind of user experience. You get the very fast confirmations. Everything's done on chain as well. So with the centralized exchanges, obviously, they perform a lot of their trades off chain on their centralized servers, simply because they have to keep the speed of transactions up. And the Waves, because of the Waves NG, transactions are confirmed almost instantly.
Yeah.
In a decentralized manner, and you've got all the functionality you kind of expect and the interface that you'd expect from a nice, clean, professionally built exchange. And you've got your trading view charts with all of the functionality to do your really kind of advanced charting. And the real interesting thing that a lot of people don't realize with the Waves decentralized exchange is the matching engine is very clever, in that you can create an order for any pair that you wish. So if you created your own token, you could create a sell order for that against Bitcoin, against Ethereum, against Waves, against Litecoin. People don't have to trade your token for Bitcoin and then use their Bitcoin to buy Litecoin or Ethereum or Monero like you do on decentralized exchanges, because you're limited to only the pairs they've set out. I can create a straight order between any two tokens that live on the Waves exchange. So that's a very kind of useful feature, and actually makes it a lot more efficient, quicker, and kind of less transaction fees needed to get to the token that you want.
What about fiat gateways? How do they work on Waves?
So the fiat gateways work very much like the crypto gateways do at the moment. They work through at the moment, the main fiat gateways on the Waves wallet are run by a company called Coinomat. Again, you can, straight within the Waves wallet, purchase Bitcoin or Waves with credit card or bank transfer.
So credit it's a third card, party?
Yes, it's a third party that processes this. It's not Waves themselves. It's a company called Coinomat, or a UK limited company, who have been working and running the fiat gateways on the Waves wallet for about the last 2 years. So they're quite well established. The fiat gateways work well. They've got inbuilt KYC. Again, you can purchase with credit and debit card, but there's limits on that, and the fees are a little bit higher because obviously the risks of purchasing with credit and debit card. But you can also purchase using bank transfer, and Coinomat handle the full KYC, and it's all inbuilt into the wallet, so it works nice and intuitively with what it is you're trying to do. So again, you don't need multiple apps, multiple wallets to do this. And the fiat gateways at the moment, you've got the US dollar, euro, but you've also got, anybody can create their own gateways on the Waves platform. So we've also got a company called Digilira who are running a Turkish lira gateway that is very popular because at the moment in Turkey, cryptocurrencies are booming and people are
they
very
are.
interested
Yeah.
in Turkey. And there's a company called WavesX who are based in South Africa who also run a South African Rand gateway, which is very useful because, again, in South Africa, crypto is very popular.
Africa is huge for crypto right now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can purchase crypto directly from South Africa, Turkey, or any other country that's supported by the gateways.
And obviously, Waves at some point hope to have, more fiat gateways. Obviously, increase
They'll
those.
be adding more. Yeah, they'll be adding more over the time. And even though, obviously, for example, they don't have a British pound gateway, I could still use the fiat gateways as a UK customer, but it would convert my pounds into either US dollar or euros when they land in my Waves wallet. And the really interesting thing with these fiat gateways actually is they actually act as stable coins on the platform, and they're fully fiat backed. So, for example,
I noticed that. I noticed that before. Yeah.
So if you hold any US dollars in your Waves wallet or sold Waves or Bitcoin for the US dollars in your Waves wallet, those US dollars are fully fiat backed, one for one, by Coinomat. So there's a lot of nice kind of stable coins built into the DEX, ready for people to start trading.
Now, Waves just released their first, I think it was their first game. You said it was the first non-Turing complete game, if that's correct.
Yes, the dice roller game that has just been released by Trading Sys. That's a very interesting game in that they built it using only the non-Turing complete smart contracts that Waves have deployed so far. So we touched on it earlier, talking about the scripts that you can assign to assets and to accounts. So they've built a whole dice roller gambling game based just on those scripts.
And they use the Waves. You can earn Waves tokens as well in the game.
Yes,
it uses Waves.
That's it. It uses Waves. It's fully powered by Waves. It's fully decentralized, apart from obviously the interface. I mean, that's kind of a whole nother issue that we have to overcome when it comes to blockchain. You can have all your scripts and the back end fully decentralized and living on a blockchain, but you still need a centralized interface to almost translate that information to the user and allow the user to interact with it. So the actual dice roller interface, the gaming interface, will live on a server somewhere that's developed by Trading Sys, but the whole back end of that game, everything that the game is doing, the brains of it, is all fully decentralized and living on the Waves blockchain.
So I don't think I asked this question earlier, but do you have Ledger support for Waves also?
Yes, Waves has Ledger support, which is actually quite a recent development. But again, you can store your Waves or any of the Waves tokens on your Waves Ledger, and again, that's fully compatible with the Waves wallet, decentralized exchange, so you can keep your Waves nice and secure using your Ledger. Yeah.
And the new Ledger Nano X has got support on that yet?
I am not aware of that. There might be some updates needed.
It's still early doors for the Ledger Nano X, I think.
Yeah. I believe maybe straight out the bat it might not. I'm not 100% sure on that one at the moment.
So that pretty much covers Waves. I wanted to ask you a few questions so people could kind of get to know you as a person as well.
Just 1 second. There's one other thing I didn't really talk about when we were talking about Waves, and it's a big issue that people talk about when it comes to blockchain, and that's scalability. That's a big thing that people talk around with scalability. And the one thing I loved about Waves, when they were first developing the product about 2 years ago, is they were solving scalability issues before they had any scalability issues. And this is kind of a whole ethos about how Waves develop. They're very forward thinking. They want to solve problems and build the technology for people before hyping the idea or before reaching these problems. So for example, the scalability, they implemented Waves NG, which actually enables them to run with 3-second block times, 3-second block confirmations, which enables pretty much instant confirmations. So when you're sending a Waves transaction, it's almost instant. By the time you've gone to your other wallet to check if the Waves have transferred, or even the Bitcoin, again, because the Bitcoin lives as the Waves token on the Waves network, I can send Bitcoin or Ethereum, again, at the same speed as Waves, which is almost instantly. So that makes it a really interesting wallet and platform to use. And I love that Waves were fixing these issues and building in scalability solutions.
Having a solution before they had the problem, yeah.
Exactly. And Sasha was very clear and open that he wanted to develop a platform that people can use, and then he's going to get out there and get the world using it. And then he's going to get out there and he's going to market it, because a lot of people over the last couple of years have had a bit of an issue with how Waves have been marketing their products. And it's simply the way Sasha knew that the platform wasn't ready for mass adoption. He wanted to build a platform that was ready for mass adoption, then get out there and get companies using it. So that's kind of where they're moving into this year.
Well, if I could choose how a company would develop, that's what I'd pick. Do the work first, forget about the hype.
Yeah.
If the project's good enough, people will use it, and the hype will come later. Yeah, and that's pretty much what Waves has done so far. I mean,
yeah,
we're really early doors in crypto, and I mean, how many followers does the Waves platform have on Twitter? Over 300,000, for example.
It's actually, it's
crazy.
Up in the hundreds of thousands mark. I mean, yeah, that's it. And they've built solid foundations. So they've built in the scalability solutions, they've built in usability, they've built in the DEX, they've built in the easy token creation. Now we're going to do smart contracts. Now we're going to get the developers on board, developing apps and really clever technology on top of the solid foundations that they've spent the last couple of years building, rather than jumping to the end like Ethereum. Built a great smart contract platform, but didn't really consider the foundations needed for people to utilize those smart contracts in a day-to-day basis.
The scalability issue is being solved later. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And the same with a lot of platforms. You'll find they'll release some really, really cool features that people have been asking for, but haven't built the foundations to enable that to grow as the industry develops and as mass adoption kind of happens. So Waves are very forward thinking when it comes to that. And
in your opinion, Shaun, do you think it will be one platform that kind of rules them all, or do you think they can all coexist and take a piece of the pie?
I think we'll see a lot of platforms coexisting together, especially as kind of interoperability improves and more projects work around getting that kind of interoperability across different blockchains.
I agree.
I don't think it'll be one platform to rule them all, but I think there'll be a few leaders of the race, really, and I believe Waves will definitely be up there, especially as they release their smart contracts over the next year. Their full Turing complete smart contract language later towards the end of the year will allow people to build anything they want really on Waves. At the moment, you're limited to what you can do with the functionality because non-Turing complete. But that's great because they thought about this. Waves team have thought, why reinvent the wheel? Most people, what they use smart contracts for, it's reiterated again and again and again. People are using smart contracts for very similar processes again and again and again. So why reinvent the wheel? Waves can code these smart contracts into the wallet, into a nice user interface as a wizard, so that you can launch a smart contract straight within the wallet and just
not even know what a smart contract is prior to, you don't need the knowledge.
Exactly. You don't even really need to know. It will work just like you're creating a form on Google Forms. You don't need to know the ins and outs, the back ends. Waves will build that all in nicely. It'll be secure, more efficient, no gas requirements.
Yeah, no gas on Waves, as well. We didn't touch on that, but there's no gas. I also think Waves is probably the best. If somebody had just come into crypto and they downloaded all the Ethereum wallets, all the Neo wallets, the Waves one seems, in my opinion, is probably the most user-friendly, is the easiest for newcomers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Not overcomplicated.
You've got the fiat gateways built in. Everything's kind of as you expect to see things. It's clean. It's simple to the point. And it's got functionality that people are going to need when it comes to mass adoption. Things like aliases. The Waves wallet has aliases, so you don't have to remember your long wallet address. You can just assign a name to your wallet and people can send tokens straight to that name.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that as well,
Things like data transactions. At the moment, you can post data straight to data. Storing data on a blockchain has been one of the biggest hurdles that companies have had to try and overcome because it's not efficient. So a lot of projects that want to use blockchain can't because the cost of storing data. So Waves have embedded data transactions natively into the blockchain platform so that you can post data straight to the Waves blockchain up to 140 KB per transaction, which equates to, they love selling this idea, it equates to the exact length of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet in one transaction. And it's very cheap and efficient, and you can you can post strings, booleans, different data types as well that can just be stored nice and quickly and retrieve that data back nice, quick and easy. Things like sponsored transactions, we didn't talk about that. So as an end user of your platform, you don't, like, say if you develop a platform on Ethereum, develop your game on Ethereum, for people to transact your ERC20 token, they have to hold some Ethereum to pay the gas costs.
Yeah.
But obviously, when it comes to real world adoption, people don't want to be knowing about holding Ethereum.
I think that frustrates a lot of people. Yeah. Why you just
exactly
there? Yeah.
It doesn't really translate into day-to-day use cases. So Waves has sponsored transactions where transaction costs can actually be paid in the token the user is holding. So if you create your game token, you can sponsor that game token so that when people transact on that game token, they can use the game token itself to pay the transaction fees.
Right.
They never need to hold Waves. But because it's sponsored, the miners still receive the transaction fee in Waves. So it's a win-win for everyone. And again, it's that usability when it comes to mass adoption further down the line. In the next 5 to 10 years, the things that people are really actually going to need. And again, it goes back to that being very forward thinking when it comes to their development.
Well, I'm a big fan of Waves. I have been for some time, and I'm excited to see where things are going in the future. But I just wanted to ask you two last questions. They're a bit more personal, just so the audience can get to know you a bit better before we finish up. So how did you become a Waves ambassador, and why?
Well, really, I participated in the Waves ICO at the time, as everyone was back when ICOs were booming. Everyone was looking for the next best ICO to invest in. And after their ICO,
it was a good ICO to invest in.
Yeah, I mean, they've done quite reasonably well. But I love the whole ethos, the way they were developing. If I was to develop a blockchain platform, I'd have done it very similar to the way they've done it. They were building the features that I thought people were really going to need further down the line. And I just love what they were building. So I just kind of started to educate people on it, introduce my friends to it, introduce other people to it. And it just kind of started building from there. I started creating some videos, writing articles about Waves. For some reason, I can't really even explain why, I found what they were doing really interesting. And I could see the real benefit of it.
Well, I guess your technical background helped you understand a lot of the stuff they were building too, you know?
Yeah. I think, again, it really did help me kind of translate what they were doing from a technical perspective into what businesses are going to actually need on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I definitely believe if you put the customer experience first is so important.
Oh yeah, massively. And first impressions count. So when people open up their wallet, they want to see a nice clean interface where things are in obvious places.
I think this is something, this is kind of separate, but Blockfolio, I don't know if you've used this, but it's an app that you can keep. Yeah, I think that's the best app. I don't think anything comes close to it. Visually, you know what I mean? And
yeah, again, Blockfolio is brilliant. I've always used Blockfolio for many years now. Very avid user of Blockfolio. I've had a few glitches to it since the recent update, though. But
really?
we won't go into that. I don't know. Maybe it's just my.
I'm sure they'll fix those.
But again, just what the way Waves were doing, and they had a really nice community. When I got involved with it and started talking to people, the community are very friendly. There's a lot of people in the community building their own projects.
And it's also a large community, which, you know, can make way for some toxicity in some projects, but with Waves, there doesn't seem to be much. Like, I agree with you there. Definitely a good community.
The only issue we have from a community point of view, I would say, is that because issuing tokens on the Waves platform is so quick and easy, we've had a lot of people come into it and think, oh, they've got the next best idea for the next best cryptocurrency that's going to solve all of the world's problems. But all they've done is create a Waves token, and now they're trying to get people to buy it.
Yeah.
So you get people spamming a lot of tokens that really, do they have any value or not? So that's created kind of this little bit of a ethos around Waves in that it's a network for tokens with no value. And it's simply a case because, a lot of the tokens don't have any value because you can create them with 2 clicks and they're very quick and easy to create and they're very cheap to create. So,
but over time, people and the market will decide what has value and what doesn't.
Oh, of course. Waves are doing a lot of work as well to kind of help people filter out any crap that's on the Waves network, filter out spam tokens. We've got whitelists now. We've got ways of organizing tokens in your wallet, hiding tokens, burning tokens. So there's a lot of functionality they've built in because they wanted it to be an open platform for anybody to create whatever tokens they want. But obviously people need to be able to filter through any rubbish that does get created, or any spam that does get created on the network, and Waves are working hard to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, going through an anti-spam, something for anti-spam is definitely important.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to the original question we were talking about was kind of the Waves Ambassador program.
Yeah.
So obviously I started working closely with Waves, promoting Waves. They asked me to start attending some events over here in London on behalf of them. And that's kind of where the ambassador program kind of built from there. And they decided, oh, great, you can become a Waves ambassador. And then they were like, right, we're going to launch a whole Waves ambassador program.
And they've just announced that they're releasing an ambassador reward token, if I'm correct as well.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting one. So a nice use case for the smart tokens and smart accounts in the reward token will go to active members of the community, but it will only be tradable, sellable by whitelisted accounts or ambassadors at the moment.
Of course,
yeah. The idea. So everybody will receive some of these reward tokens, but the whole idea is to reward other users, other people. The Waves team can reward other active members of the community. So everybody will receive some rewards token during the airdrop. I'm not actually sure of the date of the airdrop at the moment. I believe
it was just announced, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was only been announced yesterday. But everybody who holds some Waves community token will receive some reward token, but you won't be able to sell them. Only at the moment the ambassadors will be able to sell them. So the people that receive them will be able to use them to reward ambassadors. It's going to be interesting how that develops. And again, Waves are also moving into doing the airdrop for their VST token, Vostok, which we didn't really talk about, which is their enterprise blockchain, which is a whole nother project. Waves have had a lot of government contracts come up, a lot of people that want to work from the enterprise side of blockchain, but need to be able to hold private information and have permissions on accounts and things like that.
Yeah, well, definitely. I hope to have you on again at some point, Shaun, because there's so much more to cover. There's so much more.
Talk a bit more about that.
But just for the sake of time, I just want to finish up on one last question. This was given by one of our followers. It's a question from Twitter. He wants to know what's the difference between Ethereum and Waves over the coming 2 years.
Well, the main difference is Waves are going to be moving forward. Ethereum are going to be moving backwards. That's the best way I can explain it.
Well, as we speak, the Constantinople hard fork is just after happening, if I'm correct. I didn't look too deeply into it, but
yeah. I mean they are moving forward with those sort of defaults. But what's come to light recently is obviously there's a lot of developers backing Ethereum. They've got huge communities of people working on Ethereum right now, but they've come to realize that moving Ethereum to a proof of stake blockchain, which is what is really going to be needed, is going to be a lot more work than they first thought.
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of minor updates between now and then, but there's also going to be a lot of man hours needed to be able to move Ethereum to a proof of stake blockchain. And it could mean a lot of code rewrite, huge amount of code rewrite. And it could even mean that people who have already developed smart contracts on Ethereum having to rewrite their own smart contracts.
Yeah.
So it's compatible with.
So that might cause people to move away from Ethereum also as well.
Exactly. It's going to cause a lot of issues. And people are going to start to realize now the costs involved with developing on Ethereum are huge when you compare it to other up-and-coming platforms like Waves. The gas costs, the first thing I tell to people when they say we're building on Ethereum is I say, okay, great, 10 years from now, what is your gas going to cost you? Yeah. What is that going to cost you? And how much gas are you going to need to run all your smart contracts? Nobody can tell you because nobody knows. It's a complete guessing game. Whereas as with Waves non-Turing complete smart contracts, they will run on one transaction fee forevermore. So 10 years down the line,
it's pre-coded, the value is pre-coded, yeah.
So this is where Waves will really be pushing the envelope when it comes to efficient, secure, and quick and easy smart contract development. And Ethereum are now going to be backtracking for the next year or two, trying to plug holes, fix problems, and bring the foundations of Ethereum up to scratch so that it can cope with the demand. Whereas Waves don't need to worry about that now. They can look forward. They can look to the future. They can look towards developing their drag and drop smart contract builder to make it nice and easy for people to deploy their own smart contracts securely, quick, and they can keep building on that. Waves want to move into becoming the real backbone of the next Web 3.0. So where we're moving now into a completely decentralized internet, they want the Waves blockchain to be the backbone of that, powering the next generation of decentralized applications. And that's where it's going to get really interesting going forward the next kind of year or two for Waves.
It was really good to have you on, Shaun. I'm personally very excited about Waves in the future. I'm a big fan of the project.
Thanks.
So thanks for coming on. Do you want to let the people know where they can find the platform on Twitter and YouTube?
Obviously you can follow Waves platform, or one word, Waves platform, on Twitter, YouTube. We've got a Telegram channel and Discord. Telegram is great for general talk. If you're a developer looking to develop on Waves, head over to the Discord channel. If you just Google Waves platform Discord, that's where a lot of the developers hang out, and you'll get a lot of help on there. There's also a huge amount of documentation on Waves. If you search Waves platform documentation, huge amounts of documentation on the APIs, the gaming APIs, the different SDKs that are being built for developers. And if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter and Telegram, Biggsy, BIGGZI. So feel free to follow me. And I'm quite active on Twitter normally, sharing latest updates about Waves and what they're working on, what's coming up.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for taking the time to listen today. And Shaun, again, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. It's been a great little chat.
It has. So for everyone listening, make sure to follow us on our official Twitter. That's @0podcast. Thanks for listening.